Welcome back, everyone. My name is Professor Purvis. I'll be standing in for the Reverend Ellsworth this week. If y'all hadn't noticed, the good Reverend was busy getting his hair did. I hear rumor he's got dreads now. But I have no idea what to help the man with. Anyhow, today we're going to explore why Cain killed Abel. I always thought back to this adventure. I hope you don't mind. I hope this don't gross you out. But this is like sex for my ears. Oh. Whew. What was I saying? Oh, growing up, I always wondered. I heard the story of Cain versus Abel, or Cain versus Abel. See how that's our society. We go straight for the versus content. We like, yeah, die, Abel, die, or what do you? Team Cain, Team Abel, Team Cain, Team Abel. I mean, what is that? Sorry, it's very hard to. Second and third orgasms aren't as massive, but they're still pretty good. But we get in this conflict mentality where it's Team Cain or Team Abel, and you have to choose a side, don't you know? You have to root for your team. I live in Baltimore, and Baltimore hates Pittsburgh because we hate the Steelers. We hate that. Nobody talks like that in Baltimore, by the way. It's like, yo, man, them Steelers suck, yo. Them Ravens is what it's about. I'm exaggerating. It's all exaggeration. Life is exaggeration. But anywho, enough social commentary for me. Let's go ahead and get into the learning for today. Now, a friend of mine approached me a little while ago, and she was like, I'm taking this math course and excuse me. I'm taking a math course and I don't quite know how to do these math conversions. And then I was like, oh, don't worry, missy. I'll help you with your math conversions. As sure as my name is Professor Purvis. I don't really know where I was going with that. But then I was like, okay. Well, the first problem of any math or any education is you can't educate anyone. See, education is something you do to someone. I'm going to educate you. In the South, they have a wonderful phrase, I'm going to learn you. It's like, oh, shit. No, I do the learning. I'm going to learn you. It's like, in communist Russia, learning does you. It's like, ooh, okay, so that's obviously a no-go on that one. So, we're not going to educate you. What we're going to do is we're going to engage you. And engaging is something I can do because it's an invitation to a dance. I engage you in a dance, I engage you in a song, I engage you in an opportunity for me to review something that I think I know, and I would really like you to challenge me on it enough so that I learn it again. See, that's what education, half a air quote, education is all about. It's all about me going, alright everybody, I'm going to show you something I know. If you haven't read it yet, it's an amazing book by Frederick Douglass, which I want to say it's called The Life of an American Slave, or it's just called An American Slave. But Frederick Douglass was a rather brilliant man who was born into American slavery quite a number of years ago. And somebody made the mistake of teaching him how to read. Because the family, apparently the mistress of the family, was a very godly woman, very Christian woman, and I believe he said there was no misfortune for which she did not shed a tear. And that's just powerful stuff. And he said, and that was until I came along. And then eventually over time she realized that I wasn't really a person that didn't deserve how to learn or have access to books. I was just chattel property. So what happened is that I believe the mistress of the house got him to a basic understanding of the alphabet. He didn't know how to write. He knew how to read. He knew how to recognize some symbols. I mean, imagine if somebody picked you up out of your comfy environment and dropped you in the middle of China. And not like fun Beijing, China, where you might find, 10,000 English-speaking people there. No, in the backwoods where nobody even speaks proper Mandarin or Cantonese. They're speaking God knows what. And think about how long it would take you before you naturally learn Chinese. Well, that's where Frederick Douglass was. He was a stranger dropped into a strange land, and he had to learn the local language, because without it, I mean, he could speak it, and speaking was good. But that only allows you live interaction. It doesn't give you the access to people that are dead and gone. I mean, I've read the works of Seneca. Seneca has been dead for thousands of years, hundreds of years, hundreds. I'd say it's more than 1,000. And the fact that I can read what Seneca wrote and relate to what Seneca wrote is only possible through the gift of literacy. So what Frederick Douglass knew is that once he could start reading, he started learning about the world around him, and then he wanted to learn how to write. Well, he didn't know how to write. So what he would do is he would go in, he would sneak in and grab the workbooks from the young son of his owners. And when the young master wouldn't complete his workbook, Frederick Douglass would go in and actually do the workbook. He would trace what the young master had drawn, and then that's how he learned. That's how he learned to practice his symbols. But he still didn't have the audio symbol correlation quite yet. So what he would do is he said, I would gather up bread, of which there was always enough made available to me. So he was well fed, but still a slave. So he would gather up all the bread made available to him, and he would go down the lane, mingling with all the poor white children of the town, and he would give them bread in exchange for conversation. And what would happen is that he was practicing his speech, the new words he wants to use. Not always in the house vernacular. I don't know if you call it that way. Yes, massa, no massa. Right away, massa. But, who do you think you are? That's not something you get to practice as a slave. It's not like, oh, master, who the fuck do you think you are? No, that's not something you get to do. So he would trade bread for conversation, and then he would go down to the shipyard where they were building ships. And as they were building ships, they would pick up a piece of wood. They would then determine what part of the ship the wood belonged, and then they would draw a big letter on it. And I think it was like starboard and leeward. I don't really know all the nautical terms, but big letter on a piece of wood. So then Frederick Douglass pick up a piece of wood, and he'd go, that letter. And he'd look at somebody and go, I know how to draw a letter. And the guy's, for a grown person, let's just say you're 16 years old, and scratch that. You're 21. You walk into a bar, you walk over to the bartender and say, hey, bartender, I know how to draw a letter. The guy's going to go, yeah? I hope you know how to draw at least 14 of them for your signature. But to be a black 16 or 21-year-old walking into a bar and saying, sir, I know how to draw a letter, he's going to look at you and go, who the fuck taught you how to write? Oh, no. Oh, no. I'll give you a drink. You show me proof of that foolishness. So Frederick Douglass would brag to white people, hey, I know a letter. And they'll go, fuck taught you a letter? But see, in those days, literacy was not very common, whether you were white or black. But it was abysmally low if you were a slave, regardless of your color. Slave to the system, slave to the man. Direct slavery, indirect slavery. I digress. Anyway, Frederick Douglass would trade. He would Tom Sawyer this situation to achieve this. So definitely check out Frederick Douglass. But it was the engagement of it all. Why did all the men down at the dockyards teach Frederick Douglass how to read? If he had walked up and said, sir, would you please teach me how to read? They go, go away, boy. We don't have time for you. I don't know why they're Australian, but it just makes it fun. But because he went up and he first engaged his teachers, then the teaching could begin. And that's what you always look for in any teaching environment. When I was talking to my friend about math conversions, like, who the hell cares about math conversions? I said, you care about math conversions. You know why? I'm going to explain to you why Cain killed Abel. We have two suppositions right here. One person charges $20 a gram, one person charges $75 an eighth. An eighth of what, Professor Purpose? Stuff. Anyway, so you can pick whether you want Cain or Abel to be arbitrary. Because right now, I mean, if you know the answer, don't call it out. But can you tell at first glance who is the better deal? Now you might say, well, this sounds smaller, and this is a smaller dollar price. So if it's a smaller dollar price, perhaps this person is charging more. Because typically when you buy a fewer quantity of anything, people will penalize you for not doing a multi-discount. So since this is more, this is probably a better deal because, hey, we're paying more, so this is, we'll just say, you know, rough estimate, this is more than 3 times. So we expect this to be at least 3 times the size of that, and that may be the case. So let's just say that, I don't know how you want to do it. You can either do, say, Abel was the goody two-shoes and deserved to die, or Cain was just an asshat and just couldn't throw a temper tantrum without throwing a rock. So we'll just, Cain gets this one. Oh, alright. Cain gets the top one. So we'll say that Cain is charging $20 a gram, while his brother Abel is charging $75 an eighth. So that's our supposition. So now we have to figure out who is this more stand-up guy. So what we need to do is understand the relationship between a gram and an eighth, because we already understand the relationship between the 20 and the 75, because they're both dollars. So if we can figure out, you know, how these relate, then we can clearly say who's charging the better thing. Because eventually, if we understand this is 20 a gram, we probably just want to break this 75 down into gram as well. So is this 3 times the size of that? So an eighth is actually a reference to an eighth of an ounce. And an eighth of an ounce is, well, an ounce is 28 grams. So an eighth of an ounce would be 1/8 of 28. So a half is 14. That's terrible. Just terrible. It doesn't go quite 4 times. So it's 3.5, right? Ooh. Yes, it is exactly 3.5. So an eighth is 3.5 grams. So what we know is that we have a relationship, and our original term is $75. Now, the way math will look at it is it's $75, 75. Okay. The measurement of hertz, how we measure frequencies, that's how we hear sounds. The hertz is technically 1 over time. So it's how many times something happens a second. So a hertz is a unit of happening per second. It's really weird. So like a second is an actual second, it's a measure of time. So in this case we have 75 1/8. So we'll just say 75 over an eighth. So the relationship is 75 over 1/8, okay? Now we don't need the eighth, so we need to get rid of the eighth. So the relationship we have is an eighth equals 3.5 grams. So then we can multiply $75 over 1/8 times 1/8 over 3.5 grams. Alright, so then we get this scenario right here. Alright, because we can multiply it times this because this is technically 1 over 1. And anything times 1 is going to be itself. So if we just did 1 and 1, then this would be the same thing over here. But we are multiplying it times a special kind of 1, a special kind of relationship. Because this eighth up here and this eighth down here are going to cross out. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of them with a different color, mind you, for contrast. I'm learning, Mom. I'm learning. Go with me. I'm slow. So we get rid of the eighth. Get rid of the eighth. So now, what we have left is we have $75 per 3.5 grams. So then what we do is we take 75 over 3.5 grams, and now we reduce it to its simplest terms, and 75 over 3.5, so 75 divided by 3.5 is whole place. Alright, so we had a brief mathematical interlude. I didn't want to make you watch me do all the work. But essentially what I did is I divided 75 by 3.5, and I got 21.4, and on and on and on. So we go back to our original supposition, which is Cain charges $20 a gram, Abel charges 75 per 3.5, which works out to 21.4. Go figure out, Cain was actually giving you a better deal at the smaller quantity. And that's, my friends, is why Cain probably killed Abel, because he was ripping everybody out. So don't do that. Don't do it. But that's basically the conversions, mathematical conversions, and hopefully I've engaged you either with the humor or the fascinating new haircut. Don't worry, I still have dreads. They're just up right now. Because apparently they need time to get angry and whatnot. So I don't know. I'll take them down for a second, I guess. Okay, just a second. Oh gosh, it's my friend April Lynn right here. She hangs out with me all the time. We don't get to hang out as much as we like to, so I'll put her picture up. Remind me. Sometimes I wear her around town. Sometimes I wore her out to get my hair done one time. The lady was like, "Oh, she's beautiful." I was like, "I know, she's my friend." She's like, "You don't know that woman." I was like, "Excuse me." She said, "You don't know that woman." I said, "Excuse me." She said, "You don't know that woman." I was like, "Bitch, that's my friend, April Lynn. Now cut my hair." That's just rude right there. I don't know what's going on. Alright, we're getting into the point where I'm losing ideas and steam. But we got some great projects coming up. So once again, I'm calling out for voiceover artists that A, listen to the end of my shenanigans, and B, actually are comfortable doing voiceovers for some more adult themed items. There'll be some swearing and maybe some sexual innuendo. If you are comfortable with these items, please let me know. ellsworthsays@gmail.com. Shoot me a quick email. I am very slow to get back, so please understand that. Yes, I tell you once again, patient be, folks. Patient be. I'm Professor Purvis, a.k.a. Reverend Ellsworth. Signing off for now. Be patient with one another.